under. My name is Dr. Tovah Goldfein. I am a specialist in mind and body chronic pain solutions. I'm also a chiropractor and a rehabilitation specialist for lots of years. You know, Rose and I we started this about 6 or 7 weeks ago because we really wanted to help ourselves and help others with the surreal times going on in the world. And we felt it in our own bodies. We knew that these times were going to create lots of changes in people's bodies and minds. And we felt that we had helped so many people in the past that we wanted to continue helping people. And we wanted to continue helping people with the problems and the solutions. Here's Rose.
Good morning from Australia. Thanks for joining us again. Many of us are not only suffering from social distancing, but also job loss, fracture of relationship, isolation from loved ones, well, here in Melbourne anyway, missing co-workers. The list is different for all of us. But loss and grief is all around us. By now, many have lost loved ones. To you, we send our condolences. So the personal pain is exacerbated. You know, I have a question for you. Is it possible to turn chronic anxiety and pain around and instead make yourself a source of strength, healing, and peace in your own life? And another question, do you think there will be a day when you desire to face your pain, when you think the desire to face your pain will be stronger than the pain itself? Just some rhetorical questions for you to think about as we introduce Dr. Barbara. My name is Rose Hoey, and I practice ISTDP psychotherapy, a modality that focuses on revealing the repressed feelings hidden in the unconscious. The work is based on attachment theory and the unhealthy results from unrepaired attachment. ISTDP therapy releases us from our pain to live a happy and healthy life. This week, we're fortunate to have Dr. Barbara Cohen, an osteopath and medical doctor, who will speak about her time with Dr. Sarno and her personal journey. She has a book called Bridging the Gap to Oneness. It's a lovely book with her own journey, plus interdispersed with patient stories. And she's going to speak to us about how Dr. Sarno has changed her life. Before I introduce Dr. Barbara, is she online?
No, I don't hear from her. I don't see her, but she's coming on soon.
Oh, good. Okay.
We're going to have a drama show about. No, we haven't had any drama with Facebook. It's been actually amazing. Though millions and trillions of people are on Facebook, millions and trillions of minutes. It's amazing that we have had no issues and no stress around it and no rash or hives or TMS trouble. But I think Barbara's having a little trouble getting on, but we're going to wait for her and we're going to hang out here until she comes.
Yeah. Look, I'd like, while we're waiting, to do a little relaxation exercise, if that's all right with everyone.
I'd love that. We'd love that.
Yeah, lovely. So let's take a few moments to relax our bodies. Notice if you're tight around your shoulders, your jaw, or your hips. Let your body drop into rest mode. Take a deep breath in, hold, and exhale slowly and let go of the tension in your body. Again, take a deep breath in, hold it, exhale slowly and deeply. And in that exhalation, let your pain drop down and fall away. Your breath is both conscious and unconscious. So it's a form of getting in touch with your inner self as you contain your breathing and notice how it goes in and out. Even when we're not thinking about it, it's there doing it for us. Then we can turn to it and pause in those moments while we consciously think about our breathing. In and out, slowly and mindfully. In and out. Where's Dr. Barbara?
So Dr. Barbara Cohen Gordon is a friend of mine as well as an amazing doctor. She lives in the desert part of Israel that's part residential and part desert. It's like you're driving into the desert and there's a big neighborhood and then you're heading down to the Dead Sea. So she can't connect. So until she connects, I would like to, first of all, I want to talk about meditation, which is always amazing because what do you mean like breathing is going to help my pain go away? But before I do that, I would love to ask any of our guests that are watching now that might want to come on the show and speak and share maybe a healing story or talk about some meditation, talk about how their journaling helped their pain, talk about the solution. We can talk about the problem from Trump to Netanyahu to, we kind of want to focus on the solution and the journey. So if any of you guests out there, if any of you members on Facebook want to come on, we can fit 4 people on our TMS roundtable here on Be Live. And if you want, you can say hello on the Facebook underneath, and I'll send you the link, and you can join us. It could be a really
great
TMS roundtable. So if you want to come on the show right now, I can beam you up. So until Barbara can get some connection, God bless her heart. If any of you want to join us, just let me know, and I'll send you the Be Live link. We're on a Be Live program that then I bring us live to Facebook. It's fascinating. 6 weeks ago, I knew nothing about this.
And now we're IT experts.
Yes, and I've had a few hives to show for it. That's where I show my TMS, but of course it comes and goes, thank God, because I'm doing my tools every day. So Elohim is this amazing guy I met out in California, and he just signed on. If you want to come on the show tonight, our guest is waiting to sign in from another part of Israel where the connection, it's very windy out tonight and the connection might not be so clear there. If any of you would like to come on the show, I mean, Rosie and I are interesting, but if any of you want to come on the show and speak or ask any kind of questions to Rosie and I, we are open to the moment of the show not happening exactly the way we planned it.
That's right. Impromptu, it's called. Could I just welcome Anne and Michael and Jane and Patty?
Yeah.
And
Miguel from New York City and Patty. Ah, Barbara's here. Yes. Yes. Wait a second. Okay.
We've got her.
Wait a second.
She's beamed up to.
Wait a second. Almost. Let's just see. She said she was joining. Wait a second. Oh my God, I see something. Barbara, are you there? Earth to Barbara. Come in, Barbara. We're beaming you up. Let's just see. We are live from the desert, not the Sahara. Oh my God.
Oh, there we are.
Go, Barbara.
We're here.
Go, Barbara.
Wow.
Go, Barbara. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Put your mug in front of the camera.
That's it. Oh,
Headphones.
Fantastic.
Headphones, Barbara.
Welcome, Barbara.
Put on your headphones. Headphones. Wait a second. Yeah, you need your
we can't hear
headphones.
you.
You need headphones.
We can't hear you.
Yeah. I think we told her. Maybe we didn't tell her. You have to have headphones.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter if she doesn't.
Headphones.
As long as she's got the volume on.
Yeah.
Is she? She's not muted, is she?
I don't think so. Barbara, use your headphones. I'll tell her. We are live. Use
across
headphones.
the world. We're alive and talking about our headphones.
We're almost there.
Can't hear you.
I want her to use your headphones. She's not hearing me.
No.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Yeah. How would I tell her?
That she's muted on your end?
No. Okay. No mute. Yeah.
It's not like on Zoom.
Yeah. I want her to use her headphones. Yes, she's it. That's it. Go get those headphones.
Okay, well, I just want to mention to you that Barbara has got a very interesting story, and she's on this journey of wholeness and health. She practices integrative medicine, and she bridges the gap that leads to the goal of living a truly fulfilling life, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Barbara's personal story, case histories, and practical information can empower and inspire you on the road to true health. Her book is just beautiful. It's so easy to read. It's pleasant. When you put it down, you think, oh, wow, she's had a really interesting life. She travels from Jerusalem to New York, I think, monthly. She'll probably tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
Amazing lady. And she's got 5 sons as well. So
Barbara, can you hear us, Barbara?
Like.
We don't hear you. Plug your headphones in. Almost. We're almost here. Let's just see if we can get this going. One second. Let's see if we can get Barbara on. Wait a second. I don't hear her. Do you hear her? Did I hear something? I heard my voice. Barbara! I'm going to bring on another guest for a few minutes. Yeah. Until we can hear Barbara. We can put 4 guests on. And I think my guest who I was going to invite in June, I just sent him the link. And I think he'd like to speak with us from California. Let's see if he comes on. His name is Elo. Let's see if he comes on first. Let's see if Barbara. So I think maybe sometimes there's let's just check on my end regarding the sound. Yeah. Let's just check with my settings.
Good.
Settings.
Well, if you've got me on, you should have Barbara on as well.
Yeah. We got.
She's speaking. But
yeah. Okay. Elohim is here. Can you hear us?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm going to talk to Barbara.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
I'm from Mexico, from state called Zacatecas. I'm 32 years old. I practice a therapy called biomagnetism. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's similar to acupuncture, but we use magnets instead of needles to balance the pH on the body. Like to balance the pH on the organs and bring it to a neutral state. And that way we can get rid of bacteria, fungus, parasites.
Tell us how you got it, how you got into it, because obviously you had chronic pain, and that's what I want people to hear.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, I first hear about a therapy or a practice called biodecoding.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but this is pretty much what John Sarno discovered by himself. Well, so I had a lot of pain, a lot of back pain. Well, I started having knee pain when I was in Mexico. I remember that I was, it lasted for like, well, I had it for like 2 years, 3 years. And I went to every doctor in Guadalajara, a famous city in Mexico. And I saw a lot of doctors, a lot of chiropractors, and they told me that everything was normal. Some of them told me that it was normal, that I didn't have any physical damage or anything. And some other doctors told me that I had a bad knee, that I probably would need a surgery or something.
Wow.
So I heard all kinds of opinions from experts. And I don't know how the pain started, because I went for a hike one day, and the next day I woke up with this pain. So anyways, after 2 years, 3 years, yeah, it was like 3 years, after 3 years. So my mom and my family got their residency, they got their green cards, and they were coming to the US. And I was like, I didn't want it to come. I was like, no, I'm good here. I have a job here, and I was comfortable there. But anyways, I decided to move to the US. And when I got here, I still had the pain. I had the pain for like a month, and I wanted to go back. I wasn't feeling comfortable. I was like, I don't belong here. I want to go back to Mexico, and even though I didn't have a great life there, and so I remember that one day I said to myself, okay, you're because my bigger concern was that I had this knee pain. I was like, how am I gonna work here? Nobody's gonna want to give me a job if I have this problem. So one day I remember I said to myself, okay, you are already here. Just try to do your best, and let's see what happens. So I remember that it only when I said this, like I don't know when my pain disappeared, because it disappeared suddenly. Like I looked for my pain and it wasn't there. But at that time, I already understood the psychology of biodecoding, which is that every illnesses, every pain comes from the emotional. So this doctor discovered that that every pain, every even cancer, even back pain or diabetes come from the emotional, right? So I understood all that, but I never really get the point because I never experienced. I was like, okay, I already know what's happening. I know that I'm because they say that every, like, if you have knee pain or neck pain or hand pain or that's related to movement, to flexibility. So I knew I was inflexible in life. I was like because I didn't want it to listen to advice from my mom, from my parents, from my family. I was like I was stuck in my ways. I was like, no, I'm gonna do the things how I want to do them. And but I remember that when I said to myself, okay, I'm gonna give this advice and change my attitude in life, and my pain disappears. Suddenly disappear. So after some time, I discovered Sarno, John Sarno's work, and it made perfect sense to what I already knew, because I already knew about this biodecoding thing.
Wow. Can we ask you a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you had the pain for a month or two, and that was the
for
first
2 years, 3 years.
3 years.
So yes, 3 years of constant pain. Like,
yeah,
it was always there when I walked. It was always there.
So what changed in you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
What
Rose.
changed in you was that you realized you couldn't change things and you were inflexible. Is that what changed for you?
Yes, exactly.
So can you talk about that a little bit more, so the audience can sort of hear how you wanted things to be your way and they weren't, and instead of finding that rage about that, you let go? Maybe would that be how it was? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So let me start for explaining in biodecoding, they say that the knees are related to, like I said before, to flexibility in life, like to submission. Like you don't want to get in your knees.
Yeah.
Like literally, you don't want to get in your knees, and you're like hard-headed, and you don't want to listen to advice and all that. So I guess when I decided to come with my family to the U.S., because I got here when I was 17, but then I moved back to Mexico, and then I had a job there, and I was living a life there, and so going back to your question, yes, I was inflexible because I didn't want it to come to the U.S. I didn't want it to come with my family. I was like I was inflexible in that way because
sort of like defiant about things. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you think that came from?
You see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and hear you.
Yeah.
So I want to say something so interesting that Barbara's on now.
I'm just Elohim.
Elohim.
I'm disappearing for a second.
No, but the problem in your knees in Hebrew, the word is berech, which means baruch, to like, it's almost like, Michael, help me here. I know Michael Goldberg's on. It's like the knees help us go forward.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable that you said that.
Exactly.
It's like unbelievable. And Barak is like
amazing,
one of the
isn't it?
most holy words that we
That's
speak in
blessed.
Hebrew. It's about a blessing.
Yeah.
It's so powerful what you're saying about the knees. And to our guests and to our Facebook community, it's like when we have pain in certain parts of our body, it does have a meaning. And not that we should get deep into the oogie boogie psychobabble of what our pain is, but there is a meaning, and it's a scientific thing that happens. And I just wish the doctors had a little bit more knowledge of this, and thank God Barbara does. And I just want to tell you, Elohim, some of the guys in Israel are mentioning that some of the old Rebbes mentioned biodecoding years and years ago in the Kabbalah and the Tanya, which is, it's unbelievable what you're talking about, that there's nothing new under the sun. This is not new age medicine. Mind body healing is just coming around again. And I just wanted you to say a few more things, Elohim, because then Barbara is on. We got her working. The angels came down and dropped some pixie dust. So go ahead.
When I heard about this biodecoding, I was like, okay, yes, it comes from the emotional. In the beginning, I thought it was something crazy. I was like, no, I'm not crazy. This doesn't come from the emotional. That's crazy. How is this possible? Because even a doctor from Mexico, from Guadalajara, told me that it might be something emotional or emotional related. And I was like, no, this doctor is, I got mad. I was so pissed off. I was like, no, this guy is crazy.
That's the usual answer.
So when I read about this biodecoding and how the emotions are related to pain and how this pain was, how these emotions were related to my pain, was causing my pain. I was like, okay, I understand, I get it, but I still have pain. My pain is not going away.
So listen, I'd like you to Elohim. Is that how I pronounce your name, Elohim?
Well, yeah, my real name is Eloy.
Yeah, Eloy.
Yeah. But I used Elohim on Facebook.
Elohim is a very holy name, but I want to say two things. One, I'm going to invite you back because I want to talk about how pissed off you were at your mother also.
Yes.
And two, could you send a link? Could you go back? You can stay on, but we're going to talk to Barbara in a minute. I'd just like you to send a link to our listeners about biodecoding. It's another tool that we can use. All the tools don't work for everyone because we all think differently. We all resonate different. So if you could send a link on the Facebook
the doctor that discovered biodecoding before I'm gone.
Yeah.
It's a doctor from where is this doctor from? Germany.
Yeah.
And they call it New German Medicine. I think.
And we've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Great.
he discovered this because he was a doctor, a famous doctor, Dr. Hammer.
Yes.
And he got cancer, testicle cancer.
Yeah, and his son had cancer, right?
When they killed somebody killed his son.
That's right.
So
and then he got cancer.
So when they killed his son, after that, he got testicle cancer, and his wife got breast cancer. Mm-hmm. So he said, oh, this is something. This must be something that comes from the emotional, because how is it possible that I got cancer and my wife got cancer at the same time after his son passed away, or somebody killed him, whatever.
And in their reproductive area as well.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Exactly.
Before you go, a lady wants to know, I just noticed, Lorraine, what would the meaning of face pain be, please?
Face pain?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm not an expert on this, but
well, just off the top of your head.
Well, face. Well, sometimes the body explains it by itself, like, because if it's something like, let's say on the face, like you have some sort of acne or something, it's related to something that you're afraid of, not afraid, but
afraid to speak out, I guess.
What's that?
afraid to speak out, I would
Yes.
imagine, is what the problem is.
Yes.
But I just wanted to know if you had another take on it. Thank you so much for coming on impromptu like
You're
this.
welcome.
It's so lovely. And if you give us the link, well, then people can inquire themselves. And
Yeah, sure.
so thank
I'll
you
post
so
it
much.
on the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lovely.
Thank you so much, Elohim.
Thank you
Thank
for giving
you.
me this space. And
all right. Okay.
Welcome, Barbara.
Hi.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah. But come a little closer so we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Good?
Yeah, a little bit louder if you have any volume.
Let's see. Let me work this volume on this phone.
Okay.
All right. Do you hear me better now?
Excellent.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent.
Okay. Beautiful.
Go ahead.
All right.
We've introduced you. We've told them about your book. So now all you have to do is tell them about your journey, if that's all right. Yes.
Well, I have a long journey, and my book actually describes my journey towards health and healing. But
speak a little louder. Speak a little louder.
We could start with myself going to Dr. Sarno.
Okay.
And why I went.
Come a little closer to the
Still don't hear me?
That's better.
Is that better?
That's much better.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So okay, so I could just start with I was a very somatic person always. In other words, I felt as a child I'd get sinus headaches, I would get stomach aches, no particular reason. Just they would come and they would go. Didn't have so much pain, more sinuses and stomach aches, especially before going to school, which I didn't like to go to school as a young girl. And I was very active, and it was hard for me to sit still in class. And I remember one year a teacher was threatening me that I wouldn't move with my family if I didn't do my homework and things like this. And I would start to, get stomach pain. But I was the type of person that never really felt my emotions in a sense. Why? I was just a happy-go-lucky person. I always thought positively. And I never thought in a negative way. And my father was similar to me, very, very positive person. And it's interesting with him, after my mother passed away, 6 weeks later, 3 weeks later, he had a stroke and then another stroke. And at the time when we were mourning my mother, he was laughing the whole time, telling jokes. And even at the funeral, he was like, people were laughing because he was like telling comedy up there, But obviously, he was really stressed. But that's how he presented himself. And myself, pretty much, I just kept pushing and my life kept going. I'm definitely hard on myself. Sarno people are very hard on themselves, all of them. Some are people pleasers and some are perfectionists. I was all three, right across the board. And I was a gymnast, so that's a perfectionist sport where your goal is to get a 10 or a perfect score. So I lived my life in that perfectionist way for a long time, from the time I was 8 to the time I was finishing college, I think 20 or so. And I was on a scholarship in college, and I had mono, and the coach told me that I would have to compete with the mono because I was on scholarship. And she told me that I would never be successful in life if I quit the gymnastics team. And that was her ploy to keep me on because, she would get burdened if I was to quit. The burden would be on her. So, and then continuing going to medical school and then having one child after another. And I just kept going and doing. I wasn't delegating. And the anger built up and built up and built up. And then after my fifth child, a lot happened, and you could read the book. A lot happened in the external world for me with my practice and another practice and things that were totally beyond my control. And I totally realize now that we are not in control, that we could only do the work and then the rest is not in our hands. So I was pretty much thrown back to a place of chaos. I grew up in a chaotic situation where Financially, my parents were trying to make ends meet. So there was a lot of chaos around me, a lot of yelling about money around me. And what I would do as a child was I would study. I'd just go in my room, I'd close the door and study. And whenever things got stressful, whatever they were, relationships, etc., I remember even saying to myself, I'm just going to go in my room and study because I can control that, but I can't control what's going on around me. And I thought, I would go into medicine. I would get out of my financial woes, in a sense. I would have financial stability, but the goal was all out of fear. Fear of what I went through growing up with major financial. I mean, electricity going out and bills weren't being paid. In those days, they could knock on your door and say, "We're taking your house away." So it was a lot of stressors, and I wanted out of that. And when I hit that path, that stressful place, after I had my fifth child, actually between my fourth and fifth, I wasn't sleeping well because I wanted really truly to be home more and not work so hard. I wanted to be with my children more. Why? Because as a child, I was, quote, neglected. My mother worked 2 jobs. She wasn't there when I was sick. She wasn't there very much, and I totally forgave her because I know where she came from, and I know she had limitations, and that took time, and there was a big process there of anger, and it was just layers and layers and layers. First it was anger with the other practitioners I worked for, but then we got to a deeper place, and the anger was really about it was really more fear. It was anger, and first anger, and then fear of fighting out of fear rather than just working in a happy place, but fighting out of fear. And then I was the only person in the family who made a living. My husband wasn't working, so again there was more fear, and I just got to a place where I couldn't sleep, and I was getting anxiety, and then I started getting pain all over my body. And I think at that point, I had a patient who had been to Dr. Sarno because she had low back pain, severe low back pain where she couldn't get off the floor. And she finally went to Sarno and she got better. And I said, she said, you should read the books. And I read the book. And I said, he's in New York. And it would be amazing to go see him because I'm not that far away. So at that time, even though I wasn't sleeping, I was still working, but not sleeping. I spoke with Dr. Sarno on the phone, and I asked him if I could come and watch him. And he said, absolutely. He goes, we need more doctors like you who are open-minded and who are, willing to learn what I do, because most doctors really don't want to learn this stuff. And I am more than happy to have you come. And it was just like a nice, warm, welcome invitation. And I spent 3 days with him. And there's one day, that whole day, when he would do his history and physical, he would ask you regular medical history. Why are you here? What's hurting? He would first make sure he reviewed all the x-rays and CAT scans, whatever tests that were there. He reviewed them and said, you are or not a candidate. So he'd only see the people who felt he could help. And he would ask them why they were there. And he would get their medical history. What medications? Did they have anxiety, depression? What was their family life like? What was their childhood life like? Their childhood like. And then he would check all the, on the physical, he would check all the Sarno points. So there's about 6 to 8 points that he would check on the body. And if you were positive for those points, then he would say, well, you were the hard on yourself type of person, and you fit the qualities of Dr. Sarno, the hard on yourself, some perfectionist, some people pleasing. He would say, okay, now after this session, you're going to listen to my lecture for an hour. And this way, with the lecture, you're going to find out why and how this occurs. And that one particular day, everybody that was there, they all had very strong child dysfunctional histories, and he told all of them that they need to go for therapy, and he recommended therapists that were highly qualified to do the work, that were supportive of Dr. Sarno's belief system. And that day he was like, just get me a beer. I had a long day. And then after that, he did his lecture and explaining everything about how TMS works, how that when we're in fight and flight, anger, fear, whatever emotions they are, we go into that fight and flight place. The sympathetics crank up. So we're in high gear. And because of that, the blood vessels constrict. They get smaller and you can't get oxygen. It finds a place. It decides to find whatever place it wants to find, whether it's in a spiritual way or an emotional way, it will find a place. And it finds a particular place, and there you don't get oxygen to that area. Thus, because you don't get the oxygen to the area, you're going to start having pain. You're going to have a lot of lactic acid buildup and certain prostaglandins that increase pain. They start to become increased, and this whole cascading effect that creates this pain. And he calls it TMS, tension myositis. And that muscle pain can press on the discs and impinge them. But once those muscles relax, the discs are free. Unless there was like literal discs that were like crushed up, and that's the story. But if it was more of just a straight herniated disc, not pressing on the cord, or a disc that's bulging, all of these things are secondary to the tension myositis. And from there was my journey. It started with Dr. Sarno. And a lot of other therapies that it took a while, and it's a process, and you all have to realize to be very, very patient with the process. And it could take 2 days, it could take a day, it could take 2 years. If you read Stephen Orzenich's book, he writes a book called The Great Pain Deception. And in that book, he talks about his plight. And it took him 1.5 years to be free of low back pain. So you have to be consistent, and you have to be constantly in touch with what's going on. Like every day I wake up, because it's not natural for me. For some it is, but for me it's not natural for me to know what I'm feeling. It's just not natural. So I have to say, okay, what am I feeling today? What's going on? So if I don't do that, I'll get something physical. I'll get low back pain. I'll get a neck pain. I'll get a rash. And so I have to constantly be in touch with what's happening today. What am I frustrated with? What am I angry about? What am I scared of? What is happening? And it's good to journal. Dr. Sarno highly recommends journaling. Steve Orzenich had used also they have audio. Audio is very good for people who are more auditory. And when you write, it's more permanent. So it's more like permanent, like you're really writing it down, you're taking it seriously. So all of these, it's important. I tell my patients to read about 20 minutes a day and write 20 minutes and then go on with their day. Don't do this more than 45 minutes in the day and just move on through the day after that. Otherwise, you'll become obsessed with it and you won't be able to move on through your day. So it's like you focus in your time for those 20 to 45 minutes, and then you move on through your day. And every day you do this, and slowly, and it's just so interesting how just working with patients and seeing where the conventional medicine, they've tried trigger points, they've tried physical therapy, they've tried everything under the sun, and then they're desperate. And then this is where I'm like, okay, you tried everything, you had every test ordered, every CAT scan ordered, every MRI ordered. Nothing is wrong, but there's something wrong. You're distracting yourself from dealing with your emotions by having physical pain. And this is what we have to get to the source of what is that distraction? What is it? And if you're, I'll just give you one example. If you're hard on yourself or a people pleaser, I had a patient who was married, had 2 little children. This is, by the way, very common with people who are raising children, because there's definitely more stress on you when you're raising children. You don't have free time. Your time is not your own, and you're working. It's the most productive time of your life when you're raising children and working, etc. It's a very difficult, stressful time. There's a lot of pressure, and if you don't delegate that pressure, there's going to be more pain. Anyway, this particular woman had low back pain, and she was in some agony. She wanted the surgery. Just do surgery. I don't care what you do. Just do surgery. The doctor's like, listen, there's nothing wrong. Your muscles are tight, but there's absolutely nothing wrong. I can't do surgery if there's no surgery needed. And I basically worked with her just through actually like this. And I would have her hold a pillow, and we went back to her childhood and how she had to be a good girl because her parents got divorced, and her mother was like the child, and she became the mother. And so she was a very responsible person. And her husband had an affair. And when her husband had an affair, she didn't express that. Like he would say to her, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I'll never do it again. I don't want to talk about it. So she kept that in. Like she didn't put her foot down and say, no, I want to talk about this. This is important. If we don't talk about this, I'm out of here. She didn't do that. She just like, okay, I'll be the good girl and we won't talk about it. So she held that in. And until she cried that out, and I said, write a letter to him even and rip it up if you want. But she did confront him eventually, and she did get this out, these feelings, and she did cry, and she got better. That was it.
I wanted. I'm so glad you came on this show, and I'm going to let Rosie sum up what you said in a minute, and then I would hope that there's a few questions that came in before, and I'm going to let Rosie sum up what you said, which was perfect. And I'm so happy that you're here, Barbara. And thank you guys for listening, and stay on. And if you have any questions for Barbara or Rose or I, we'd love to answer them. Go ahead, Rose.
I'd like to ask Barbara a couple of questions.
Sure.
Firstly, what motivated you to write the book?
What? Say that again. What
motivated you to write the book?
What motivated me to? Okay, so I'd say about 15 years ago, maybe more. I wanted to write a book about about the cases, the medical cases that I saw have complete healing. And I don't know, I just wanted to write about what I experienced because I was an integrative physician. So I was dealing with people healing with acupuncture, homeopathy, Dr. Sarno's work, the journey work, emotional work, a lot of spiritual, physical, and nutrition. And I saw the whole gamut with my patients, and I really wanted to write about that. And I wanted to write about my own story because I did really fall apart. I did really crash, and I had to pick up the pieces and start again. I mean, I really hit the wall to the point where I was bedridden, and I could have stayed like that. And thank God here I am. I'm still alive and well. And but I wanted to talk about my own life and patient cases that were incredible, and yeah, like it's just really beautiful to see when people get better, and not through sometimes the conventional means that are out there. And I did start writing the book, and the editor was one of my patients, actually. And unfortunately, she couldn't continue writing the book because she was busy with her publishing. And then before I left for Israel, I went to see her and her husband. I came to Israel, and 3 weeks later, I put the book aside because she was unable to continue. And I thought to myself, I'm raising children. It's just too much. So I put it aside. And then I got a message from her husband that she suddenly passed away from a strangulated hernia. And I was blown away. I was like, okay, that's it. Her name was Trish. I'm like, that's it, Trish. I'm going to finish this book in your honor. And that was it. And
oh, beautiful. That's a beautiful story. Now, I've got another. What was that?
I didn't hear you.
Pardon?
Did you hear me?
Oh, I had another question.
Sure.
Yeah. One of my questions was, you said when you have a twinge or a pain, you don't consciously think about your feelings. So when you have that twinge, what exactly, you go into your thoughts and you think, I'm annoyed about something. Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Just describe it for the audience so that they can actually get a grip of it.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. So when I was going back and forth I commute to New York from Israel and come back to Israel, and I was getting pain between my shoulder blades. And I thought, it's probably from carrying the suitcases and the whole thing. And then I would get treated, and it felt good, but it didn't really help me. And then I thought about it. I said, you know what? I really don't like going back and forth from Israel to New York. It's really hard. It's an 11-hour flight, and I have to carry my bags, and then I have to deal with jet lag, and then I have to get myself acclimated very quickly, and then I have to go into a lot of patience and intensity. And then it's hard. The adjustment is not so easy. And then once I start saying that to myself, this is really hard. No wonder why my muscles are hurting. I'm stressed out. And then they start to go away. Sometimes within an hour, within a half hour, it's gone.
Okay. So it's about acknowledging, isn't it? It's about acknowledging that you're putting yourself under a lot of pressure.
Right. It's about acknowledging. Yeah. If you've had childhood issues, it's more than just acknowledging. It's like really feeling it and crying it out and just going back there and feeling the repressed memories that are there.
So
Barbara, I want to thank you so much.
Amazing. Can you
providing
put a
us
picture up of your book?
Oh, sure.
So okay, and maybe you can also send it on the Facebook link. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, so it's called
Bridging the Gap to Oneness.
Good.
Beautiful. So I wanted us all to maybe answer. Patty has a question, and I hope she's still on. She asked at the very beginning, and this is a world issue. You know, people read the book and they see the movie and they do the work and they have the trauma and the pain and they're not getting better. And it's always like, what's the piece of the puzzle for the person who does everything we tell them? And I think each of us probably have an experience of what they're not doing. And I'll just say one thing, and then I want Rose to answer with one thing. Like, Patty, honestly, with the most humility and love and compassion for your pain, what most people, and myself as well, I mean, none of us are immune from TMS. I just don't get it chronically because I'm doing the work for the rest of my life. But many of my patients are not able to stay out of the drama and the trauma because they're not implementing the tools. They know it here. They're intellectualizing in their brain all the things you're saying, Patty. But if you're not living this work and understanding it's a new habit that you have to learn, and it's like you get up and brush your teeth, you don't think about it. You're driving in the car, you get from A to B, you don't think about it. It has to become something like that. So I think you're doing the work, Patty. I just feel you need to dig deeper into the feelings of discomfort and pain and maybe self-criticism. And I honestly believe you can get better. Don't give up. The tools work. Just keep doing them over and over and dig deeper. And I really send out my love and compassion, and, you know, give Rosie or I a little Facebook call or a message, and we'll help you out, because I just believe in people being human and getting better. I don't want to continue talking because I get emotional about people, but go ahead. What did you say, Rose?
Well, it's more about receptive capacity. So she is having difficulty in accepting that and looking inward about her pain. So in actual fact, doing the journaling and meditation and those things, they help. But what will help even more is to acknowledge that she has suffered and have compassion to herself, have compassion within herself. So, but I'll answer that more deeply afterwards, after this session, when I respond to everyone's, I'll respond to everyone's question individually. What have you got to say, Barbara, about that?
So I would say that the more specific you are about your, about what's going on, about what you're frustrated about, the more specific and detailed you are, the deeper you can go. So be very specific and very detailed. And even, for me, it's my heart. I don't know if you have, when you're stressed out, some people feel it in their gut, or some people feel it in their neck. Put your hand on that place that that feels vulnerable, and just feel, like, just say, I don't want to think. I want to feel it. I want to feel what's happening. Try to feel, try to, like, if you know that, and the other is that if you know you've had like childhood issues, you definitely need assistance in really pulling that stuff up, because it's buried. And it could be so buried you are completely unaware of it. You're not aware, even on a unconscious level. You're not aware. It's so repressed. And people who've had trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma as a child, sometimes that stuff is just so buried, so deep, that you need some guidance to help pull it out of you, because it's just beyond what you can handle. You need some assistance. So those are the two things that I would say. And I would also say it's important for those people who are hard on themselves, which are all Sarno patients, is that they spend an hour a day for themselves. They create that for
lovely
themselves.
advice. Yeah.
And it should be something that it could be something like sipping a cup of coffee and looking at some flowers. It doesn't have to be anything major. It could be sitting with a book. It could be doing yoga. Whatever it is that you enjoy to do, you need that hour downtime. Get a babysitter. Get your husband to help. Get somebody there for you. Start delegating, and create the time for you. You don't need to be a martyr anymore if you are one. It's time for you to live your life as well.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I want to put up this. Thank you, Barbara. I haven't met Louis before, but Louis Mattarelli sounds like a beautiful Italian name. Louis is 64 and had many lifelong problems with Dr. But the best thing he ever did was to read the John Sarno book. So you see, Louis can do it. Anybody can. Thank you, Louis, for sharing that. And Haley saying hello, Barbara. Haley Robbins. I think you went to medical
university
school
with her.
Yes. Yeah.
And another person, wait a second, who asked, wait a second. Christina Carlton asked about, she was under the impression that Dr. Sarno didn't suggest journaling until his last book. I believe in Body, Mind, Prescription, which is the second book, he did mention it. But I believe that the journaling really came strong from a lot of his colleagues. Dr. Schechter, who wrote Think Away Your Pain. Dr. Howard Schrubener, who wrote Unlearn Your Pain. Dr. David Hanscom, who wrote Control Your Back Pain, is big on journaling. And he's the one that I read his studies about the research that when you take the thought to the paper and write it down, they've studied something neurological changes, something hormonal changes in your blood system as you take the thought from here to the paper. So journaling is a very important thing. Rose?
The fMRIs have shown that when we use our fingers, tactile areas, and we're using the pen, where's the pen, to write, we're using 3 fingers, and apparently there's a lot of receptors in the brain for touch.
I love that.
So that's where the brain becomes more integrated, and the corpus callosum is able to be, I'm not a neuroscientist or anything, but that becomes more integrated, and then the pain will subside as the understanding goes into your neocortex. We have got we're going to have a doctor on later on in the month who will explain a lot more about that and about ACEs and how early childhood development affects pain. Right. So some of that will be discussed then, I hope. Yeah.
I wanted to answer Michael's question. He had a question about, one second. Michael had a question. I'm going back to it. Oh, yeah, it was down here. Wait a second. Michael Goldberg, hold on. Anyway, here it is. Yes. Okay. Michael's explaining that there's a huge difference between thinking and feeling. This is true. We're all very cerebral. We're all very good at doing and not so much at being. But what would you recommend for someone who's having a hard time feeling as opposed to thinking? And this is a great question. Rose, can you answer that?
Self-reflection. It's difficult to look back into behind your eyes and see the pain. And I suppose the psychotherapy opens that door up for you completely. And there's complete freedom to actually experience your feelings within the room with the therapist. So it's more complicated. It's more about being receptive to your own feelings and not blocking them. And we've got all these defenses. First of all, we have anxiety about our feelings, and then we create a defense. And it could be like Barbara's dad laughing. The pain was so bad, he had to make jokes at the funeral because he was suffering so deeply. And then 3 weeks later, he has a stroke. So obviously, to keep the pain down, his blood pressure rose, and he probably had an aneurysm in his brain and from the pressure. So they're the consequences of keeping your feelings down and being unaware of the process and how you're doing it. Would you concur with that, Barbara?
Yes, and I think that there are people who need, like, some people will tell me, like, if I do journey work with them, and I might do some cranial work, which is body work, because some people need to be like the fascia envelops all your body organs and your muscles, and there's a lot of memory stored within these areas, and if you free restrictions in the body through the fascia, the dura, the fluid in the body, and you do where you actually do a dialogue with your whoever is bothering you, your parent, a sibling, etc., an employer, and you start dialoguing with that person, and you have a facilitator. It can be extremely helpful. Other is EMDR for people who have had trauma. Other ways are like emotional freedom technique, EFT, where you're tapping on certain meridian points, and you're activating these points so you can feel better. So sometimes it's really, you have to like get in your body, and there are a lot of different methodologies. Some people, I've had a patient who had a life transforming event for her, with really repressed until she was about 55, complete repression of her childhood since she was 9. And she had clarity breath. She did clarity breath work. She did intensive clarity breath work for a month in Costa Rica, and it came out. Her mother was abusive. Her mother hit her. She completely blocked the stuff out. Didn't even have memory of it.
Okay, and then was her pain gone afterwards when she recognized the memory, or did she still have to release it? See, I mean, it's one thing having a memory, and some people remember in extreme detail the abuse that they had, and others repress it.
Right. So she actually, visually saw it, experienced it, and through the breath work, when they're doing it, their arms and legs are going, they're shaking. It's like, and thank God you have support when you're doing it. There's a facilitator with you, but it's her whole body was, releasing and letting all the stuff go, and crying and feeling and seeing,
and that's scary. That's all scary, but I think that we have to have a new explanation for fear. And fear is,
as long as someone's there with you, who's is competent and can guide you, and you feel safe, then it's okay. Then it's hard, but it's good. It's good. It's all good. So you got to get there.
Fear will set you free. The fear will set you free. So
facing the fear, facing the fear.
So
facing the fear,
Sarit, I think that's Sarit, Shin, Reish.
Yep.
Good, tough. After a year of pain, she read Dr. Sarno's book, and the pain disappeared in 10 days. I mean, she can't believe it happened. She thought she was crazy. See, people think they're crazy.
Right.
That's amazing.
I mean, I had a guy with 3 disc herniations, a foot drop. He had physical therapy, nerve blocks. He was, forget it. I said, listen, a friend of mine, I said, read this book. And I gave Dr. Sarno's book, the Mind Body Prescription, and he read it, and he said, oh my God, I got to go to Dr. Sarno. And he went. He walked out of there. His foot wasn't dropping anymore. He felt like 80% better, and then he went to the support groups, and with less than a month, couple of weeks, he was completely better. So that's it. If I get a twinge now, I just listen to the videos that I have. He had audio, and that's what he does. And he's fine, totally fine.
I must interrupt you and tell you about when we ran All the Rage Saved by Sarno in Melbourne. One of the ladies who was at the movie phoned me on her way home. She lived about 30 kilometres away from the CBD, and she said, I just told my husband how upset I was about, I don't know, something. And she said, the pain's gone. She said, I had to ring you and tell you. And that was after watching the movie.
Yeah. That was me. I was at a wedding, and I had sciatica for a year, and I was at this wedding. Of all places to be at a wedding. I'm at a wedding, and all of a sudden, I don't know why, we were outside, my husband and I, and all of a sudden I just start yelling at him about how I'm stressed with the kids and da-da-da. And you need to help me more, blah, blah, blah. And I was yelling. And my poor husband, but I was completely better after that. And then I thanked him. I'm like, I thank you so much for taking the abuse. I said, I'm really sorry after, but thank you. And then it happened with my husband once. He was, I don't know, I wasn't being a good girl that day, and I was not nice. I don't remember what I did exactly, but he said his neck was hurting, and then he started to yell at me because I really put him over the edge, and then he started yelling, and then I asked him, "How's your neck pain now?" He's like, "It feels better.
That's right.
And the one thing that I recommend that everyone do, because like when you are dealing with these emotions, and they're negative emotions, so at the end, I always say at the end, I mean they're not really negative, but they're real. Let's say that it's real. But at the end of this whole thing, I always tell patients, just at the end, just write down or just talk about the gratitude you have, that what you do have, so that you end in a positive place, and you can move on through your day. Just say like, "Oh, thank you, God, for giving me eyes that I can see." It could be just basic, and I could feel it. It could be one thing of gratitude, and just really feel that, and it kind of gives you the endurance to keep moving forward with this.
Yeah. Look, can I just mention also that it's better not to call emotions negative or positive, because they're all wonderful. They're wonderful things, and they're with us, and they actually emanate out of our hindbrain, which is our original brain, and they're there for our protection, they're there for our self-care and for our self-love. So when society labels them, we then, because we're part of society and we're herd animals, we then cling to those ideas. But rage, anger, grief, guilt, sadness, they're neither positive nor negative. They need to be embraced. As Barbara said, they need to be held and honoured and allowed to be. Just because you've got a feeling doesn't mean you've got to express it, but you have to acknowledge it within yourself. That's so my true. 2 bobs worth. Yeah.
I want to respond to Patty's question about maybe she's not accepting that she has TMS 100%. And I do write out some tools, and if anybody wants to PM me or find me on Facebook, I'll send you the tools that Rose and I have put together. And for years, I've been promoting these tools that I've received from a combination of Sarno and Dr. Schechter and Dr. Scrivener and Dr. Hanscom and Dr. Gabor Matai, and I put together these tools because I feel like they are part of a program that we can lean back on forever and go back to these tools. And one of them is you have to 100% accept that the diagnosis is TMS. It's not meaning you have to deny that your pain isn't real, but once you accept 100% that it's coming from a psychological cause, healing can happen. And
can I add?
Yeah.
And it's coming from something like grief or anger or sadness, emotions and feelings that have been considered not okay. So just to add to that, to Tovah's comment.
Right. So if there's a part of you that's still believing, because the pain is real, emotional pain can make physical pain. This is science. The mind affects the body. And if some part of you is saying, there's still something wrong with me, the doctors missed something, the MRI, this or that, that will be a defense, right, Rose? A defense mechanism. So Patty, that's a very good point. And maybe it's why you're hanging out in the chronicity of this, that you have to just accept it, embrace it. I also want to say, even if there's something physical, structural, something organic going on, this work helps anybody because it helps us respond to pain. It helps us understand pain. It helps us understand acute pain. It helps us understand cancer. It helps us understand the body and the mind. And it's powerful. It's a ticket for freedom to understand how your brain and body work. And if I could, come back for a few more lifetimes, I'm going to make sure that they teach this in the school systems and they teach this because it's something we have to learn. And a lot of us don't learn it. So it doesn't mean your doctor has to be blamed. It's not his fault. It's not what he's learning. Barbara learned it. Rose learned it. I learned it. Sometimes we learned it through our own TMS. And more people are understanding and coaching about this work. And so consider yourself blessed to find the gift in your pain because it's teaching you something about yourself. And that's another TMS story. So go ahead. You wanted to respond to that?
Barbara?
Yeah.
Oh, another team. Do I want to respond to that? Yeah. It is a gift because, I always say life is like a sine curve. It's hills and valleys. So you hit the lowest, the only way to go is up. So when you get to that place and you're, suffering physically, and you get to that edge where you have no choice. The only way is to start digging. Really start digging yourself out of this place and finding out where you came from, what happened. Again, it could be current, it could be those years when you're the most productive, raising children and working, etc. Or it could be from criticism growing up. It could be from abuse growing up. It could be from your own competitiveness that created the pressure. And you have to look like what happened. I look at my mom, who was very couldn't handle emotions. If I had a problem, she would say, "Go to your father. Go to your father." She could not. She was incapable. And what happened to her? It's like a link. It's like we're a chain and a link. And her father was the only one who survived. He was a survivor. All his family were killed in the Holocaust, and he came over before the war. So he was extremely controlling and extremely manipulative. And she lived a life in her home, in a controlled environment, was not allowed to go out and play with her friends. So when she had us, she had to be a child. So she didn't get to be a child. So she had to be a child. She missed that stage, and it's interesting. Before she passed away, she had cancer and she lived with me and I took care of her. And I would have been able to do it if I didn't do the journey work, which was really, again, deep, forgiving my mother, being able to forgive her and really not just forgive her like I forgive you, but feeling what she came from. Like she had this, like she was in prison as a child and she really had to go through, she had to be a child and she had her limitations because she had a very very abusive father. And once I was able to see that, I was able to take care of her. And she died in my home, and we gave her such love, and it was really beautiful. And it was even at the end, it's funny because she couldn't, it's hard for her to give to her children, yet she could give to in work. She was great at giving, and she was the best nurturer in her work environment. She took care of everybody in her department. But for her own kids, it was hard for her. But it was hard for her to nurture herself. Like at the end, when I was brushing her hair, she'd be like, I can't believe you have to brush my hair. Like it was hard for her to receive. So it's just, you become so much more aware of everything, and you end up with so much more wisdom once you go through all of this. It's not easy. It's so amazing when you get through it. It really is.
Yeah. There's a lot of fear around death as well. So it's lovely that you were able to have her at home. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to finish up now. And thank you, Barbara. And it's a shame we had all our IT problems, but we got there.
I'm
and
on
we had a little.
I have the app now. I have the Be Alive app.
Oh, good. But we had a little visitor in the meantime, which gave us another perception of people suffering. So it was really good. I always think, well, whatever comes up in these sessions comes up, and we just embrace them. So thank you again, Barbara.
Thank you so much for having me.
A pleasure. And you're going to put your book connection on the Facebook page now, aren't you?
Yes.
Yourself.
Yes.
And that's good. I mean, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I think that you sort of directing people to it, because it's a lovely, joyful. I mean, it's about suffering, but within suffering there's joy as well, and the human spirit comes through.
And once you get through it, you're in such a better place. I'm not suffering that way.
Yeah,
sure not.
Yeah. Now, I'd just like to mention that next week we've got our guest is Karen Neaton, and she's a nurse and psychotherapist, and she's actually going to talk about what happens in post-anesthetic and recovery room, and how chronic pain then becomes exacerbated when there is actual physical trauma in the body, and how by actually asking the patient what else is going on in recovery room, the patient's pain level decreases. So I think it's a very important topic that she'll be talking about. And many people after surgeries will find that their pain goes through the roof. And because the staff don't know to ask that simple question, what else is going on, they continue to suffer. I mean, one of the early things she said to me one day, she said, I just asked a lady, she had a lot of pain, she had a minor operation, and she said, my kids are home alone, and she started crying. And as soon as she said that, and she allowed that feeling of sadness and grief to come over her, her pain level dropped, and she was able to go home quickly. Yeah. And thank you. Now, also, do you think we could just take a moment now, all of us, and just acknowledge
I can't wait
our
to meditate. I love meditating. It's so easy to go into that space. Let's do it, Rose.
Okay. Just take your mind off your thoughts, off your pain, into you, because the pain isn't you. You are more than the pain. Your breath is a moment to actually get your mind and your body and your spirit together. We have the sort of saying, the breath of God. So firstly, do a body scan. Notice where the tension is in your body. If it's in your hips, be aware of it. If it's in your shoulders, be aware of it. If it's in your mandible, in your jaw, be aware of it. And just as an aside, notice that they're the areas of our body where the bones are connected and the movement happens. So, as well as the spine, but just be aware of those areas. If your shoulders are tight, as Barbara was saying before, drop them. You know, she had the burden of traveling back and forth, and she woke up to where her shoulder pain was coming from. So close your eyes now and be aware of your body. It's a most beautiful creation, I suppose the best way of putting it. An amazing creation. So inhale slowly and deeply through your nose. Hold your breath. Release the tension as you observe the breath going out again and softening your muscles. Keep your shoulders and jaw relaxed. Your abdomen should expand and your chest should rise a little. In again, slowly and deeply, through your nose. Hold it. Let it out deeply and gently and softly, so all the pain and suffering is released out of your mouth, away from you, and the real you can rise up. When you're looking at pain and anxiety, know that feelings that come up in you strengthen your body, and when things hold you down, it's a part of the anxiety process to hold those feelings away. So thank you all for being here with us, and hopefully all being well, you'll join us next week. We've got some really fascinating guests coming up. We've got Dr. Leo Russell coming up in a few weeks, who's going to talk about migraines and those sort of things. We've got John Fredrickson.
You've John Fredrickson. Eddie Lindestein from the Mind and Body podcast is going to join us.
Yeah, so all being well, we'll all be here again. And maybe Barbara might join us again in a few months. And
Rose, I love your voice. You need to make a tape for meditation. You have a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you.
I do. Okay, thanks, guys. So happy to meet all you on our Facebook Live,
good
TMS.
Afternoon, good morning.
Lila Tov. Good night.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.